Hey, Rebecca Zung here. Have you noticed that negotiating with a narcissist is completely difficult? In fact, pretty much feeling almost impossible? Well, you are in luck because this is part three of a three-part episode on why negotiating with a narcissist is so difficult. This is a very special part one of a five-part series that I'm doing with the foremost expert on narcissism, Dr. Ramani Durvasula, who's a psychologist, and she's written several books. And so we've married power legal, power psychology to make a power team to bring you guys the absolute best content that we can. So this is part three of part one of our series on how to negotiate with a narcissist. And this episode is why negotiating with a narcissist is so difficult. So if you haven't watched parts one and two, make sure you go back and do that now. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, make sure you do that right now. And make sure you watch till the end so that you'll be all caught up when part two of this series comes out. Thanks so much, and let's dive in.
So when a person is in a divorce or in any form of negotiation with a covert narcissist, then what?
Well, it's the same
It's
kind of thing. You're going to have the same sort of thing. I mean, they're going to probably obstruct you. They're, they're not going to give over information. They're going to put up roadblocks at every chance that they can. They're going to manipulate everything that you say, but they're just going to do it in a way that's more under the radar and harder for you to bring to people's attention, because when you bring what they're doing to people's attention, it's the kind of thing where people go, well, that's not that bad. Or that was probably just a mistake.
Yes, exactly. Gaslighting.
Yes, exactly. So, whereas an overt narcissist or the grandiose narcissist,
you can see it.
It's much more manipulative. You can actually see it right in the email chain. It's easier to follow the email chain and go, well, okay, here you go.
Would you argue maybe it's a different form of manipulation? Because I think passive aggressiveness is at its core manipulation, right?
100%.
It's the attempt of, maybe it's not even an active attempt, but it is the induction of negative emotion in another person, typically guilt, to mobilize action on their part, not because the other person wants to do something, but they're doing it to stave off this sense of guilt.
And it's absolutely just as traumatic for the victim.
Yes. Yeah,
100%.
manipulation's manipulation. I mean, I don't care if it's in your face, I don't care it's through a passive aggressive back door, it definitely leaves people sort of reeling. So this takes us then to one last form of narcissism I want to get to, because I think it's worth mentioning because it's more dangerous, which is malignant narcissism. There are researchers out there that view malignant narcissism as sort of like that space in the middle where more of a grandiose narcissistic style meets like a low-grade psychopathy, meets this sort of really Machiavellian, manipulative, political, very skilled, working other people's style. Malignant narcissists are where we're going to see your CEO types, we're going to see your world leader types, we're going to see people at the top who are able to charm you, then go chew someone else out, then go destroy someone else's life, and then go charm someone else. Like their ability to just sort of do that leaves everyone confused, and they've usually charmed the right people, including people like judges. They're that good. Whereas the covert narcissist ain't charming anyone. Even the grandiose narcissist gets a little bit nervous during a divorce. A malignant narcissist is very cool under stress.
Yeah, it's harder to get them unglued.
Yes, it is. It is, and they can be dangerous. I mean, we have been talking about negotiating a divorce thus far from a perspective of not from a violence perspective. Now remember, abuse in a relationship can take many forms. The majority of clients I work with are dealing with severe psychological abuse, which to me is every bit, perhaps even more traumatic than physical abuse. And it also
100%.
includes things like stalking, coercive control, financial
no
abuse.
boundaries.
Yeah, so all that things, the financial, the control, all of it, it's a disease that overtakes the person, and they realize they're literally living in a prison when they're in a relationship with a malignant narcissist. It can escalate to danger, and in the cases I've consulted on where a person's divorcing a malignant narcissist, we have to come up with a safety plan. And that's where I've worked with people who have expertise in domestic violence on having a go bag and how do you set that up and how do you, I mean, we're teaching people to clear out the search histories on computers and stuff. I mean, in the electronic age, in some ways,
also
it's
save the
hard.
things that they need to save.
Save what you need to save. Clear out what you don't want to do. Go to libraries,
Change
use
your
other computers,
passwords. I
change
tell
your
people
passwords.
that all the time.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, this is a different territory. Is there any other thoughts when you're negotiating with someone who, if not full on dangerous, like going to really do physical harm to you, is always menacing? They send that menacing email. There's something almost stalky about them. It doesn't relent. Emails at 3 in the morning. I mean, these are the clients I work with who are the most wrecked. I mean, they are in a post-traumatic stress state almost all of the time.
Yeah. And they have no boundaries. So, I mean, they'll just show up at your house. They'll do whatever they need to do, whatever they want to do. So, first of all, let me just say, and I tell my clients this all the time, if you feel that you are in danger, please call the police. You know, don't call your lawyer. Your lawyer can't do anything right away. So, you know, a lot of times I hear people saying, how is he or she getting away with this? And it's a very common thing. And so let me just inject reality into that statement really briefly. And that is that there are no divorce fairies that linger around people's houses and come jumping out of the wall when somebody misbehaves.
Exactly right.
So how are they getting away with this? Remember, the only person that has any power over anyone else in our society is the judge. That is it. There's law enforcement if you break the law. If you do something criminal, you can call the police. Other than that, it's the judge. Those are the only avenues of getting someone to behave. That's it. So when you're dealing with somebody who is menacing and maybe unsafe or stalking, then you have to call the police, because most states, in order to get any kind of an injunction, so if you want to get some kind of injunction against the person, or I guess in regular word terms, it's a restraining order or something like that, you have to be able to show that you're in danger. You have to be able to show. You can't just say, I'm scared of this person, because this person has civil rights, they have constitutional rights, they have to have notice and opportunity to be heard and all of that sort of thing. And so call the police if you think that you're in danger. It will only help you get that restraining order down the road if you decide that that's what you want. The worst possible thing that you can do is go try to get a restraining order and then it doesn't stick, because now the person feels empowered. So you have to be really, really careful about making sure that if you're going to go that route, that it's going to stick and you're going to get it.
But also, let's warn people that once you get a restraining order, the likelihood of violence skyrockets.
Well, because they're
yes, but that's the reality check. I don't want people to think restraining orders are an answer. I think they're a step, but they're a step that put people in danger, and that's the nature of how our system works. So I think to say that I mean, the number of people I listen to,
I have a lot of people ask about them. So the only other path is some kind of a civil order, which would be, exclusive occupancy of your house or something like that. And, those things you can get, but they take time.
Yes, they do.
So you have to, what the lawyer's power is to file a motion, set the motion for hearing in front of the judge. Then, and all the judges are very backed up. The judicial system is extremely backlogged. And so it takes a while to get a hearing.
Yes, it does.
And then once you get that hearing, newsflash, the judges don't always rule right away, which is really frustrating too. And so sometimes you're waiting weeks, months. I've even waited months for an order from that judge. So how is he or she getting away with this? Well, the only way you can rein in the behavior is by creating enough leverage in order to get that person to come to a table and potentially have a resolution with you, or get enough leverage that you can convince the judge to order things to go your way.
Right, which is hard. And again, in the populations I deal with, I deal with the people where things didn't go their way. And too many women who are beaten up or killed because the restraining order came, that inflamed the violence, can't, I mean, you know, it's a nice idea, and law enforcement has more leverage. So it really opens up this whole issue of these are complicated issues. And, you know, in the bottom line, and I think one of the most painful things I've heard is the number of clients who've worked with me who've said, this person is a bad person. They should not be raising these kids. Like, you know, and again, it's usually not even the money piece. Like and they'll still be upset. Like, I don't know how you expect me to do all this with this little bit of money, but how can you let this person half the time raise children? And I'm telling you, as somebody who's worked with these families, I have seen the majority of narcissists I've worked with got 50% custody.
Yeah, because
50% custody.
Yeah.
And let me tell you this, there's no happy ending to this. Children are destroyed.
Well, here's what happens a lot of times in the negotiation for that, and especially in states where child support is tied to time sharing.
Yes.
Which a lot of states it is. Some states it's not, but most states it is.
Yeah.
And so what they do, especially if they're the moneyed spouse, is they go for time sharing because then they pay less in child support.
That's right.
And a lot of times, though, they end up not taking it, which means that the non-moneyed spouse isn't getting the full amount of support,
and still with the kids.
They have the kids all the time.
Right. Which, again, I understand what you're saying, that this is a right of the child, but I always advise clients, I say, anytime they try to blow you off, and blow off the kids. Like, they got the kids 50% of the time, so they didn't have to give you the money. That's why they fought for. They didn't want the kids. They wanted the money. Okay.
But
now,
it is also, though, the facade of I got my kids 50% of the time, because they don't want to tell the world that they didn't want their kids.
Right. They don't want to tell the world, but they don't want their kids.
No. But they want the show that they got 50%.
Right. So after the show is proven, and they can walk around saying they want 50%, they're always trying to foist the kids on the other partner. 100%. To which I tell the other partner, who's usually the one I'm working with, take them. They're like, but this is unjust. I'm like, this whole thing is unjust. Didn't you say you want to be with your kids 100% of the time? Anytime they give them, take them. Because the less time those kids are spending with the narcissistic parent, probably the healthier for your kids. Now, what does end up happening is that they're not often getting the requisite additional money that more time would take. They figure it out. But I'd say if you can get the time with your kids, get the time with your kids.
Okay, so a little strategy here as far as during a divorce. If the divorce is taking several months, which a lot of them do, then give the narcissist 50% of the time during the temporary period, because you will give them rope to hang themselves that way. Because then by the time you get to that final hearing or you get to the mediation, you've now kept a log, which I tell everybody, keep a log.
Oh, so do I. Yes.
You've now kept a log that shows that this person showed up late, didn't take them, asked you to take them, blah, 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 because they can't help being themselves. They're not going to take the kids 50% of the time, even during that 9-month or 1-year period. You will have lots and lots of times that they asked to change the schedule. They showed up late, blah, blah, blah. And so now you have that leverage. Now you have the information that you need in order to push for the custody arrangement that you want.
Okay, it's a great point. I mean, again, we probably talk for 17 hours on this because we've seen it from both sides of it, and it is interesting, like, you know, to watch that. I say exactly that is you have to keep the most detailed log. I said it's almost like you're keeping records and charts the way a physician would, like you know, days, hours, you name it.
I've won entire cases on those.
Yes, I'm sure that's good, and I hope you heard that. She's won entire cases on those. You can't do this after the fact. You have to do this in real time. You're not going to be able to even construct it a week later. In real time, it has to become a daily practice that you're logging this stuff. It's difficult, it's painful, it's uncomfortable. You must do it. It's part of your healing, but it's also part of your strategy.
Just open a notes thing in your calendar or your phone, or use an app. There are apps just for taking notes for that. I mean, so just get into the habit of logging it real time.
Okay, so I mean, for me, I learned so much talking to Rebecca. And so, you know, we are going to continue this in our next episode as we keep breaking down the issues inherent in negotiating with a narcissist for both of our channels. I'm going to say for me, please hit the bell. Please subscribe, because you'll get notifications. You'll not only get content like this, the enhanced content on this channel, but also the ongoing regular new content I'm always putting out on narcissism. The beauty of working in the field of narcissistic abuse the way I am and going all over the world and talking to people about it, I get about 20 new content ideas a week, not to mention all the amazing content suggestions you guys are putting out there. So there's always new stuff coming out. Please do subscribe, and then keep staying tuned in to this series so you can hear more. Anything else, Rebecca?
Well, I just want to make the point that to subscribe to both of our channels and hit the notification bell for both of our channels, because we're both putting out really, really excellent content. And if you're dealing with a narcissist, it is so, so critical that you stay up to date with the ideas that we're coming out with, and the tips and the tricks that we're coming out with. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks so much for watching this part 3 of our 3-part episode on why negotiating with a narcissist is so difficult. If you haven't already, make sure that you hit subscribe, hit the little notification bell so that you don't miss one single tip or trick that I offer on how to negotiate with that narcissist. And make sure you also grab my Crush My Negotiation Prep worksheet. I will drop a link to that below. If you're getting ready to negotiate with a narcissist, you absolutely must have that before you walk in. I will see you in the next video. And until then, today is a great day to start negotiating your best life.